Okay, welcome. Welcome, everybody. I am Janelle Devlin. I am a former nurse, got my bachelor's here in the beautiful state of Colorado, worked as a surgical and post-trauma nurse for about 13 solid years. Loved my work there. Now I am so honored, enthusiastic, fulfilled in getting to really lead a team of authentic individuals that are empowered to make massive change. And they come from all different backgrounds and all different walks. But tonight specifically, we're bringing the professionals together that are in this space of holistic minded wellness, that are in this space of maybe a medical profession, maybe in the psych world. We at Amare Global are super committed. We're in our third year of business, and our commitment has never waned from the very beginning that we want to bring this holistic platform to the world. And what we need are people that get what we're doing. And so tonight we have some really special guests that we thought, who would so many of you from different walks, whether you are a nutritionist or a chiropractor or a medical doctor or a psych doctor, that you could relate to, that you can maybe see yourself seeing and hearing what they've heard and how they've been able to implement what we're doing into their practices. So really my goal for this tonight is that you feel totally empowered, that you feel empowered that what you're doing is meaningful and needed, that you also feel encouraged that there are others like you that are holistically minded, and that you also feel equipped to know what to do as far as what we're offering here at Amare and what you could do to bring that into your practice and make it even better. So with that said, I want to do a couple introductions. So as long as I just want to make sure here that everyone see me here. Great, we have, awesome. All right, what a great group. Thank you guys for joining us here. And so a couple introductions here. We have, you guys will be hearing from Dr. John Kempter, and John Kempter is a holistic dentist. He is a biological dentist. He'll explain a little bit more about what he does, but he really has a passion to be able to bring the education to his patients and have them have a real protocol and program they can use at home that's all centered around wellness. How cool is that from a dentist, right? So cool. You guys are going to be hearing from Dr. John. You guys are going to be hearing from Nona Kinsfater, who is a holistic practitioner up in the lovely state of Wyoming and making some massive waves. I mean, it's just amazing that we got you here tonight, Nona, because your schedule is pretty full. So thank you for joining us. And you'll be sharing your experience, yes. And we also have Dr. Andrea Armstrong, and she is a doctor of chiropractic, and she's up in Wisconsin. So you guys will be hearing from them. But just to get us started with our main speaker here, I wanted to share a little background of Dr. Talbot, Dr. Sean Talbot, that is joining us tonight from Utah. I mean, we're just like from sea to shining sea tonight. So Dr. Sean Talbot, PhD, I don't even know what all these stand for, CNS, LDN, FACSM, I know what that one is, FAIS, FACN. So the big thing here is he is a fellow of the American College of Nutrition, the American College of Sports Medicine, and the American Institute of Stress, which I think we all should be paying attention to with the state of the world. Did you guys know American Institute of Stress? That's just amazing. He's the author of 2 academic textbooks, an award-winning documentary film, and several best-selling books that have been translated into multiple languages. You've maybe seen on the Dr. Oz show, Ask Dr. Nandi, the TED Stage, and the White House. I know he doesn't need me to say all this stuff, but I think it's cool. He served as a nutritional educator for elite level athletes, including Olympians. So with that, he's going to share a little bit about what we're doing here at Amare, what we're doing that's different, and kind of the main question that we get from many of you medical professionals. And this is a great platform because we can really use a little more of maybe the clinical vernacular in our conversation, because you guys get that. So the big question we get is, okay, I hear what you guys are doing at Amare with the gut, the brain, the axis, the heart-brain axis, like I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it, but really show me the science. What are you guys doing that's so different? So that's our first frequently asked question. The second, we're going to talk about kind of our award-winning product line and how it's making things simpler for practitioners to be able to implement these regimens in their offices. And the third frequently asked question, with so many patients, gluten-free, dairy-free, struggling with food allergies, all these sensitivities, like where does Amare come in? How are you guys setting yourself apart? And we're sure gonna talk about that. And the fourth and final question is to that stress point. With the current state of our stressed out world, how is Amare setting themselves apart in the space of mental wellness? Like really, what are you doing? Like I hear you have great products, I hear people are feeling awesome, but really what are you going to do? How's this gonna percolate throughout our culture? So those are our four main questions, and then we will have some question and answer at the end where you guys can unmute yourself and ask specifically some questions. We will have a hard stop at the hour, so I'm going to start the questions at least at the quarter till mark. Okay, I feel like we're like gearing up for some athletics here. Dr. Sean, why don't you jump in with that first question, and then we'll hear from Dr. Andrew with kind of her experience here. But show me the science. How is Amare doing things differently?
Yeah, that's always a good question. That's usually the question that I'm asking somebody else. Like, you know, I hear all these claims about products that are out there, and my question is, where's the science? Show me some evidence here. And so what I decided to do to answer that question is I put together a couple of slides. So if I can, let me see if I click down here. I think I need you to enable the screen sharing.
Yes, I do.
If there's a way that you guys can do that on your end.
Okay, I will do that here. All participants, there we go. Okay.
Because it's a legitimate question, right? You know, here's these claims. How do I know that the products live up to those claims? So here, hopefully you can see my slides now. Yes.
Yep. Great.
Okay. Cool. So here's some of the background that Janelle already talked about. I like to tell people sort of like where I'm coming from with the way that I kind of describe the things that I'm going to describe. My PhD is in nutritional biochemistry, so I talk a lot about how these supplements or these functional foods can change the biochemistry of the body. You know, how can they change stress hormones or neurotransmitters or, you know, microbiome metabolites and things like that. But then how do those biochemical changes result in a psychological change? How do they reduce your stress? How do they improve your mood? How do they sharpen your mental focus? That kind of stuff. So the kind of work that I do and have been doing for the last 20 years or so, sometimes these days is referred to as nutritional psychology, sometimes as nutritional psychiatry, but I prefer the nutritional psychology kind of description, because, you know, what we're looking at is how food or nutrients or herbals, things that we're taking into our body, how are they changing how our brain is feeling or performing or functioning on, you know, all these different levels. So those are the kinds of things that we're going to talk about. A lot of what we do here at Amare is talking about this idea that how you feel is not just in your head, it's also in your gut, which is your gut as your second brain, and also your microbiome, the bacteria that are there. It's also in your heart. The electrical signals that are coming out of your heart can change the way that your brain functions. So this idea of thinking about where these signals are coming from, that, you know, 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut, not 70% of your dopamine is made in your gut, 70-something% of your immune system is in your gut, you know. So a lot of these signals that we're receiving here in the brain and that we're determining as an emotion or a mood state or psychological outcome, those signals are actually coming from other places. And if we can realize that, we can think of helping people feel better from a very much a systems approach, where we're saying, hey, we're going to do something at the level of the microbiome so that somebody feels better, or we're going to do something at the level of the cardiovascular system so that somebody feels better. And all of those brains are connected together by what we call the axis, right? So when we say gut-brain axis or heart-brain axis, or all of them together, the gut-brain-heart axis, that axis word isn't just a throwaway. It actually refers to the very coordinated and redundant system of communication whereby those three brains and the entire body send signals back and forth, you know, across, to and fro. And some of those signals go through the nervous system, some of them go through the cardiovascular system, some of them go through the immune system. We're actually finding that the immune system is in and of itself kind of like a communication organ in the body. And we can talk about that later if we want to. But all of these different systems, we try to modulate that signaling across our product line. So when you look at our product line, one of the things that I like to explain to people is that we've got 22 products. each and every one of those helps you, and I do this all the time, I do it in quotes, helps you feel better in a particular way. So sometimes that feel better is because we're able to lower your tension. Sometimes that feel better is because we're able to elevate some aspect of your mood, like an anxiety parameter. Some of that feel better could be that your brain fog lifts and you're able to focus better, or your energy level is higher, or your sleep quality is better, right? So they're all under the umbrella of what we refer to as mental wellness, but they're different tracks, right? So all of those different slices, so to speak, of the mental wellness umbrella are all different ways that we can help people feel better. And what we need to help people understand is what's your problem, basically. Are you stressed, or are you tense, or are you underslept, or are you in physical pain and that's resulting in some of your psychological pain? There's all that kind of overlap. And so what we do is we really try to make this kind of information as available as possible. So if you go to the Amare.com website and you go to this part of the website called the Info Center, there's a section there called, I think it's called Resources. And in there, you can get all kinds of marketing materials, you can get slide decks, you can get PDF printouts of the products and the science and the quality control. We have a whole section here called technical data sheets, where if you click on one of those for mentobiotics, you're going to get a 50 or 60 page PDF that goes through each ingredient by ingredient and why we chose that particular ingredient, what the science says about that ingredient. And then there are abstracts of the clinical trials on those particular ingredients. So, sometimes for mentobiotics, they're 50 or 60 pages. Sometimes for something like Sleep Plus, they might be a dozen pages, but we put it there so that people know that we did our due diligence around selecting the right kinds of ingredients to go into these products. So those are there for people to consume. I know there's one of our health professional wellness partners actually has gone in and printed all of these out. And when she goes to a meeting with other health professionals, she brings the binder and just sets it down on the table so that people can see, look, there's this gigantic amount of information, which, of course, hardly anybody is going to pick up and delve into. So that's one of the reasons that we have some of the summaries that we do and the videos and things like that. One of those documents in that resources section outlines our quality control process. So this is a really, really important piece that we have here at Amare. We're a pretty new company. We've only been selling products for about 2 or 3 years, but we follow the same kinds of product manufacturing, ingredient sourcing, good manufacturing practices, all that kind of stuff that you would expect to see at $1 billion nutraceutical company. And I know that because I've helped set up a lot of the quality control processes at some of the very largest companies in our space. So we wanted to follow exactly what the big guys are doing now so that we don't have to change our method of operation later on. So, the next 3 slides are just screenshots from a quality control document that you can download from that resources section and takes you through all step by step. But what it does is it talks about how, we go all the way from the idea of how are some of these herbs used traditionally 5,000 years ago in traditional medicine, and how can we apply that using scientific techniques to our modern ailments. One of the things that I think is kind of funny is that if you look back at traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda or any of the traditional ancient medical systems of any of the countries around the globe, they didn't really have a word for stress. They didn't really have a word for, stress hormones like cortisol. They didn't have a word for burnout, so you have to sort of decipher a little bit how they treated or alleviated melancholy or failure to thrive or, those sorts of things. So like sort of teasing that out and then saying, all right, this is an herb that was used, or this is a plant that was used. What are the bioactives in there? Can we identify those? Can we see if they are effective in any known biological pathways? If we know that, and if we know that there's some safety there, how can we apply that to our modern situation? One big thing that we do, and I won't go too much into this because I've done complete deep dives about this topic, is ethical sourcing. We actually go boots on the ground to a lot of these places around the globe, in India, in South Africa, in China, in South America, to actually see, not just look at the certificate of analysis that we get from these companies, but to see where the stuff is growing, to see who's harvesting it, to see how those workers are being treated, to see if they're, clear cutting a part of the, part of the rainforest. Those are all things that don't necessarily make it into the finished product in terms of, quality of, the bioactives that are in there and the purity of the source and things like that. But there's still very important considerations that we're looking at, across every single ingredient that we source. We also do a lot of analytical work, right? So Amare doesn't have our own analytical laboratories, and that's on purpose, because what we want to be able to do is check these raw materials with third-party suppliers, right? So we have a whole quality control supply chain where we're looking at the raw materials, right? The ashwagandha powder that's coming in, the corngrass powder that's coming in, each of the nutrients that are coming in. We're doing certificate of analysis from the supplier, but we're also validating that, trust but verify sort of a situation with third-party analytical laboratories. We're also testing a second stage, which is in process. So there are people at our contract manufacturers, which are all certified by the Food and Drug Administration to be GMP, which stands for Good Manufacturing Practices. They're actually doing testing during the manufacturing process, pulling bottles off the line and testing those to make sure that they're within certain parameters. And then we're testing finished products also to make sure that they meet our quality standards. So it's not just trust the certificate of analysis, it's really verify that, test, so that we can feel really comfortable that what we send out and what that customer receives has checked all of these boxes that you don't always see in this nutraceutical space. And then here are some of the analytical techniques that we're using. So the reason that we use third-party laboratories is because some labs are really good at vitamins and minerals. Other labs are really good at amino acids. Other labs are really good at botanicals. So you're able to go to those particular laboratories and lean on their expertise in their particular area, right? Lots of laboratories can say to you, yeah, sure, we can analyze for, OPCs or, whatever botanical, bioactive you're looking for. But if they're only doing it once in a blue moon, their techniques aren't going to be sort of up to snuff. So, we're looking to confirm bioactivity. We're looking to confirm purity, basically making sure that there are, the ingredient has what we want and doesn't have other things that we don't want, like heavy metals and, environmental contaminants and things like that. So we're doing a lot of that kind of stuff on the front end to make sure that what's in that bottle is what we want to be in that bottle. But then we go the next level, and this is something that very, very few nutrition companies do, which is not just rely on the science around the ingredients and not just rely on good standards around their manufacturing, but actually do clinical trials on their finished product. So, here what you see is I'm not going to go through the details of any of the studies that I'm going to show you right now. Janelle has these slides, and if anybody's interested in getting the slides and sort of digging into the nitty-gritty, she can provide them to you. But we've done trials on our finished fundamentals pack, so that we can show, yes, we know what the probiotics do. There's a body of research on that. Yes, we know what the prebiotics do. There's another body of research on that. Yes, we know what all these phytonutrients do. There's a body of research and a body of research and a body of research. But what happens when you put them all together? Do you get a synergistic effect? God forbid, do you get a canceling out effect where one effective ingredient and one effective ingredient cancel each other out so you have an ineffective product? That could happen, and you don't know until you actually do some of these trials. So this is one trial that we did. We presented it at a lot of different scientific conferences. We published it in a peer-reviewed journal, and I'll show you that in just a second. And we're able to show that in a fashion that is much more than you would expect for the individual components, you see very, very nice changes in the microbiome, which are translated into very, very nice changes in overall psychological mood state. So that's the sort of summary there. If we can get the microbiome right, or better, or more balanced, whatever terminology you want to use there, people feel better in a variety of different ways. And the reason they feel so much better in so many different ways is precisely because we were able to change the microbiome. So you could think of it like this. If you have a better microbiome and you can produce more serotonin, your depression index is likely to go down. If you have a better microbiome and you can produce more dopamine, your fatigue is likely to go down, and produce more norepinephrine and your confusion is likely to go down, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like restoring this internal natural pharmacy that we have that produces the bioactive chemicals in the amounts that we need, when we need them, in the situations that we need them. So we're able to show that, and that has been very, very widely received. Here's where we published that. We published it in an open access journal called Functional Foods in Health and Disease. And we did that very much on purpose. It's a peer-reviewed journal. It goes through all the same processes that any peer-reviewed journal would go, but it's open access, meaning it's not behind a paywall so that people have to subscribe to that journal, or you have to go to your academic library to get the actual paper. We do that very strategically so we can get the information out to as many people as possible. We present these data at lots of different scientific conferences around the globe. So here's one that we did on our fundamentals pack, on our Project B3, which contains the fundamentals pack, but also contains a variety of other functional foods to sort of broaden the kinds of benefits that we're seeing. So here we saw the same sorts of microbiome and mood state changes, but we also saw a variety of body composition changes, cardiovascular performance changes, biochemical changes like butyrate levels and cortisol levels and things like that. So, it's just another level of proving out the products. We did a whole series of research studies leading up to this, establishing a nutritional approach to improving the heart-brain axis. So, what we did was we looked at several individual ingredients: astaxanthin, palm fruit bioactives, black cumin seed oil, and we did research separately on each of those ingredients, published the data in these journals that you can see, presented them at various scientific conferences, and then once we knew what the individual ingredients were doing, we started combining them in different ways so that we could eventually get to a point where we had a formula that was tested separately, but then also together, that we could bring out as something that was really sort of establishing this new idea within the category of mental wellness around the heart-brain axis. So here's just a quick summary of some of the research presentations that we've done over the last couple of years, the different conferences that we go to, some of the peer-reviewed publications. So a lot of times the trajectory of these kinds of things is that you do the study, you take it to a scientific conference, you present it to a group of your colleagues, find out what you did right, what you did wrong, see what the feedback is. Once you get that feedback, you use that feedback to build into the manuscript that you write up, that you submit to these peer-reviewed scientific journals, and then you do the back and forth of, change this and provide more information here and reformat that, and it can be a long process. It might be a year sometimes from doing the study to actually getting the publication. So as a young company, the fact that we have as many scientific presentations and peer-reviewed scientific publications that we do, I think speaks to the overall ethics of what we're trying to do here. We're really, really trying to do this the right way. Here are some of the ones that were just done this year, and because it's the year of COVID-19, a lot of these conferences, some of the biggest scientific conferences in the world, have all been canceled. So this one, experimental biology, we presented virtually our study on Kids Mood Plus. This one, HealCon, we presented virtually on Project B3. This one, the American College of Sports Medicine, and we presented virtually on Mental Heart. So you can see some of the others, Fundamentals and Project B3. And then, we're also getting a lot of awards from the industry, which is nice to get that third-party validation, I guess, if you will, about our products, about the company. We've also filed a lot of patent applications because this whole idea of the gut-brain axis and the heart-brain axis is a really, really new approach to helping improve mental wellness. And so these are new inventions in a lot of ways. It's a very, very new approach to getting people to feel better. So you can see some of the ones that we've filed, and around gut-brain axis for mental wellness, around mood quality and sleep, around the endocannabinoid system, et cetera, et cetera. But we do this for two reasons. We do it to protect the product and the company from competitors, right? People coming and copying what we're doing. But we also do it to protect the businesses of the wellness partners. They're working hard to build these businesses, and we want to make sure that people can't come in and just, copy what they're doing and, take market share away from them. So those are the kinds of things that we do. Like I said, that, Janelle has these slides, and every Tuesday night, almost every Tuesday night, I do a deep dive where I'll spend about an hour going into some aspect scientifically of the things that I just described. So, one night it might be just about sleep quality. One night it might be just about, depression indexes. One night it might be just about, physical performance and mental performance. So those are all posted up on YouTube right now. So if you went to YouTube and typed in Dr. Sean Talbot, you get a whole library of these hour-long snooze fests, but it's a lot of information, and it's there so we can educate people about all these different things that we're doing. So with that, Janelle, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Well, hardly a snooze fest. People are on here.
Depends on your perspective.
Your perspective. I think for anyone that's holistically, medically minded, that gets the brain and is wanting to learn more, are so fascinating. I just like to have it on sometimes in the background if I'm even driving or just something like that. So thank you for sharing that. And so that kind of ties into the next question. But before we get to the next question, Dr. Andrea, if you want to unmute yourself, and Anne-Marie, if you want to quickly unmute yourself, I just want to point out Anne-Marie, who's our co-host tonight, the co-host of the show. And she is also a nurse. She is a warrior. She is absolutely on a mission to help empower nurses along with other medical professionals. Anne-Marie, I'll let you share, but just say a quick hello to everybody, because I know that you brought a lot of people on this evening.
I'm just excited. I am a nurse. I love nurses. I love healthcare professionals in general, but I do have a heart for nurses and really want to get them out. And tonight we have several on them. And Dr. Viola is on, Sonia is on, Laura is on, several of them. So I'm really so excited to see them together with everybody else. So yes, but thank you, Janelle. This is wonderful. And everybody else who's participating too.
Thank you. Thanks for manning the chat, the participants. And Dr. Sean mentioned the slides. So if you guys want to private message Anne-Marie or myself, Janelle Devlin, in there, just with your email, we'll only use it to send you the resources that you ask for. But just, unless you already got an email confirmation from me, I have your email. So Dr. Andrea, will you share? Dr. Andrea, let me get my little note here for Dr. Andrea. Again, Doctor of Chiropractic up there in Wisconsin. And you've been using the products for a couple of years, but share your story and just kind of what drew you in, what you've been impressed with, and why you choose to offer Amare to your clients.
Hello. Yeah, it's totally not a snooze fest. If you are, if you're in this space, I remember when I started and I couldn't get enough, and I don't feel like that ever stopped. So get ready for that if it's something that you're excited about and dive into. I think I had an earbud in my ear for the first year and a half listening to Dr. Sean go through his deep dive. So always great information, and not a lack of information, which I really love. I think when you're in that healthcare field, you are constantly looking to learn and constantly looking to dive in, and quite honestly, trying to find what's wrong, right? Like, what's wrong with this? It sounds great. What's wrong? You won't find what's wrong because it's not. So I just want to, clue you into that. But I have a unique position into this, but maybe not unique. Some of you might be feeling the same way. I remember when I first found out about this, I thought, never, ever, ever am I going to be involved in a multi-level marketing company, ever. And the only reason why I even took a look was because my daughter at the time was having some GI issues. And I remember kind of being snotty about it with my girlfriend who brought it to me. And I was like, well, what do they have I don't have access to already, right? And I remember her saying to me, and I was asking her all these questions, and I think she's stumbling across, like trying to figure out stuff. And it was very new, maybe not even started yet. So there weren't these amazing resources out there that we have now. And so I remember her saying to me, what if I could get you a phone call with Dr. Sean? And I was like, what do I have to lose, right? It was literally the most impressive 20 minutes. And I remember getting off the phone and saying to my husband, holy crap. Like, you can't even imagine what they're doing. And I think it's interesting because I was so against it. And so I kind of had to, be sold a little bit. And so I think as healthcare practitioners, we assume we have the best of the best already at our fingertips. We kind of maybe not know it all, but have the resources to get it all. And so I think it was really interesting as I, again, sat with my earbud in listening to stuff and continued to dive in. I was thoroughly impressed with that piece. And then we saw results with my daughter that we had not been able to get under control for over a year. And at this time, I remember texting Sean and being like, oh my gosh, I think it's working. And then 2 weeks later, I'd be like, oh, I don't think it is. What should I do? And he's like, stay the course, Andrea. And we did. And my gosh, you guys, I don't know where we would be with her. We got her digestive issues under control. We were starting to see some impulsivities with her that we completely got under control, that I don't know where we would be today with her, and then eventually the rest of our family, because of course we all hopped on. And so being able to genuinely share that with my patients and with my friends and family and those people who trust me because of what I do for a living has just been a true blessing. And I will be forever grateful for the business opportunity as well, as I, dive more into this area that I swore I would never be a part of. I have fallen more in love with it because it has allowed things that I never, thought were possible. I look at this whole COVID situation, having to close my practice down for a little bit, and it didn't add that stress to my life because I had this and I was still able to help people, which is why I do what I do. But I also was able to bring money into my family without my doors being open. And that's a thing of beauty. And again, not only the financial piece, but I feel like it has allowed me to touch lives of people that are literally not physically able to walk in my door, because they're not local to me. But for whatever reasons, our paths have crossed, they trust me, and to be able to bring that to them, it's just really awesome, because, can't be a travel chiropractor, right? Or maybe I could. But I think when you allow yourself to just quite honestly I allowed myself to get over myself a little bit, right? And to just humble myself a little bit and look into what's actually being done. And I promise you will be surprised on every level and will not regret at least taking the time to dive in and see what's being done.
Thank you. Love that. And I did not mention that you're also a member of our scientific advisory board, which is cool. So we have quite a cool lineup, an impressive lineup of our advisory board, and you being one of those. So thanks for sharing that and just how that's been implemented into your practice. And so we'll toss it back to Dr. Sean for this next part of the question before Nona shares. And that's just, I know that I've heard you talk about this, Dr. Sean, kind of at length, but if you could kind of summarize why you chose to put in our fundamentals pack, that's the award-winning fundamentals pack, you wanted to make it simple. Because we know that out there, and I know when a lot of practitioners are looking to see the ingredients and what's in there, they're like, holy smokes, I was doing, at least a dozen supplements for my patients to try to do with different brands and everything to try to do what you guys have in the fundamentals pack. So can you speak to that? That we could talk about our Mood Plus product and our relief and our sleep. The same thing goes, I know we've packed so much in to try to make this simple for the consumer. And so our patients and our clients aren't overwhelmed with 85 bottles.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Yeah. Yep, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Oh, maybe not anymore.
Let's see, I'll make sure that he's still on here.
I think I got the gist of your question, if you can hear me now.
Yes, just like,
Okay.
we want to make it simple for the patient, for the client, so they don't have 85 things on their countertop.
Yeah, so like,
What's doing what?
yeah, the fundamentals pack is a good example of that. If you look at it, you'd go, oh, well, it's one pack. What could be more simple? And then you open it up, and inside is 3 products. And you go, well, all right, 3 products, one for the gut, one for the brain, one for the axis. Yeah, makes sense. But if you actually look across the ingredient profile, you're actually looking at about a dozen different formulas that are all put in there at once. And it's not like we didn't take the approach of saying, oh, well, let's just throw the kitchen sink in there, right? And hopefully, cross our fingers, hopefully something works. It was really thought out very strategically from that perspective that I talked about a few minutes ago, that systems approach. One of the big challenges with mental wellness issues, depression, anxiety, burnout, garden variety stress, any of that kind of stuff, is that that person doesn't feel well. That they're not doing, they're not where they want to be, but you don't necessarily know what the cause of that is unless you do microbiome testing and blood work and saliva panels and all that kind of stuff, right? But it could be that they don't feel well because of something in their brain, or it could be something in their microbiome. It could be something in their gut integrity, like leaky gut. It could be that their immune system is suppressed. It could be that they're overinflamed. So you get the idea. Could be. And instead of, taking the approach of, well, let's randomly try this and see if it works, or let's randomly try that, or what we did was we said, let's try to do as root cause as possible. Let's start at the level of the microbiome and do our best approach to rebalance that, and then go up to the level of gut integrity, and then go to the level of the immune system, and then inflammation, and then neurotransmitter balance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why it works as well as it does for so many people in so many different ways, because it ticks off all of those boxes across the whole gut-brain, heart-brain axis cascade. And so that's it. Like, you can get as in the weeds and make it as complicated as you want, or you can take a high level and make it as simple as possible and just go, here, try this. You're probably going to feel better, right? And for a lot of patients, and for a lot of health practitioners, it doesn't matter why that patient feels better. It matters that they do feel better, if that makes sense. Like, the mechanism is almost secondary in a lot of situations, right? But we can try to explain it, for people who want to understand that.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that's a good transition to Dr. Nona, who's up in Wyoming, because that's exactly what was happening. I mean, I met Nona at actually the Gut Check Summit that you were the keynote speaker at, Dr. Sean, yeah, about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. And that's where we first met. And then she started implementing this with her patients, and you almost just probably took the words out of her mouth as far as how that started happening and what she started noticing with her patients. So Nona, can you unmute yourself and just share in a few minutes, just even for you, what drew you in, what have you been impressed with, and why are you choosing to offer this to your clients? Like, what's exciting you about that?
Well, I wish I knew how to share files, because we do clinical studies in my office. And so we actually have the matrix data to prove the difference in levels. So I specialize in autoimmune and autoimmune associated cancers. And we have developed formulas, and I am a master herbalist and blah, 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 blah. So we developed these formulas, and we were seeing these phenomenal results. I mean, things that Dr. Sean, you probably have had this, is like, holy cow, this surprises even me, and so we do things from the root cause. But our hardest challenge, and I met Janelle at this event, and I'm like Andrea, it's like MLMs, marketing. No, I don't want to be part of that. And so I'm really skeptical about these products. And I'm a healer. I'm not a salesman. And it was just really hard for me to take that step. So it was kind of a funny conversation with Janelle. because I'm prescribing this stuff. And she says, well, have you tried it? No.
Yeah, I was like, you have all of these people using the products month after month. I was like, how are you feeling on it? You're like, well, I've been so busy, I haven't used it for myself.
And so I know she just kind of went, try it, see how you like it. And I'm going, okay, fine. I know it works because, you know, I will probably start crying because my autoimmune has less than a 5% survival rate. I had autoimmune encephalitis. So it's not headaches, it's my brain hurts. I don't know how to describe it. And so I started using just one or two products, and it was like, excuse my language, holy shit, this is phenomenal. It's like, and after about a month, it's like, oh my God, my brain doesn't hurt anymore. And I'm looking at it, it's like, oh, it's got phosphatidyl in it. Oh, that's awesome. Because that's what we use in our product. And then I started using more and more, and now I am an Amare junkie. Handful in the morning, handful at night. And that's how we get through it. And then with that, then it was like, okay, then I could relate to my patients. The biggest challenge was epigenetics. How to get enough in them to affect changes in the DNA. And they were taking this huge amount of stuff because we had so many things to conquer. And then there was Amare. And we started taking it, and people would come back and go, I don't know what's in this, but I'm never going to stop taking it. I feel amazing. So it's like, okay. So we started keeping track. We were getting, let me look at my charts here really quick. For epigenetic variances, we were doing pretty good. In 30 days, we were getting a 30% increase. By 60 days, we're getting 64. When we added Amare, that bumped it up to 48%, and in 60 days, it jumped to 72%.
Holy smokes.
Those are huge numbers, huge numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how you came up with relief, but I will personally hug you because that is knocking out some of the most acute pain we come across consistently. So I don't know that if there's words to truly express how Amare has affected things. We had a Sjogren's individual, which is associated with RA, and her doctor basically said, okay, so there's nothing we can do. You're going to be blind by the end of the summer. Well, she's not. And part of that was adding that Amare in as we kill the virus. We just saw our Down syndrome patient who is 2 and non-functioning, and it's like she calls me, she's just sobbing. She says, oh my gosh, he just said his first word.
Oh, it's so great. I mean, you have the best stories, and you share them with me every time. I just, and of course we don't want to be so careful in any claims we're making, but I feel like this being a safe place with us talking about this, it's like, I know this is what you're seeing, and let's share it. So thank you for sharing. And when I do a follow-up email, I'll have a little blurb on each of our speakers. If you guys want to learn more about them, I'll have like a little link to them. But for the time, we'll go jump to our next question, if that's okay, Nona. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your experience. Honestly, I'm going to put my our next question was Dr. Sean was, with so many patients, gluten-free, dairy-free, struggling with food allergies, where does Amare come in? And I'll just say a quick blurb, and then Dr. Sean, I'll let you, maybe you can blend that with the mental wellness piece of that fourth question. But for me, I just turned 40 a couple weeks ago. Whoop, whoop. And my 30s were spent in natural practitioners trying to figure out, why do I have adult acne? And why do I have these food allergies? I would get a a rash from any sort of dairy. I mean, for years. That was actually late 20s, early 30s. So I would kind of get to a certain point with my food allergies, as long as I ate super clean, but I certainly could not have a slice of, organic healthy pizza. I couldn't. So that was a big deal for me. Was I wasn't expecting that. For me, the first thing I noticed, because I went in to try the products when they weren't the pretty labels. They were just white bottles. And I thought, okay, I feel like I'm using really good stuff. I'm going to try this stuff and maybe I'll just, poo-poo it. But that's not what happened. Mentally, that clarity first thing for me is what I noticed. Vocabulary words coming to me, feeling like I had this calm, this peace. We're right in the middle of adopting 2 of our 4 kids through the foster care system. And if anybody has been through that or known anybody who has, it's a lot for these kiddos. It's a lot for the people involved. And so we wanted some tools to be able to use with our kids to give them the best next step. So anyway, I'd like to just have you, Dr. Sean, speak to that, and then we'll have Dr. John just jump in. But if you could just take a couple minutes and just share, how is it that I did so many things, and I know it's a big part in that meant to sink and building up my gut integrity. Can you speak to that? Because I feel like that's where people go, what in the world is going on? I've never had this kind of digestion like I have with Amare.
Yeah, so, first of all, a lot of those, ingredients that people have either allergies to or sensitivities to, it's not really that person has a sensitivity to that thing, like gluten or dairy or whatever the case may be. It's that you have something wrong with your gut, right? You've got a leaky gut, you've got a low mucus layer, so that you have a lot of inflammation in your gut. And so if we can reestablish a good microbiome and rebuild that gut integrity, a lot of time you see allergies go away, you see food sensitivities go away, people thrive, even when they consume that problematic ingredient, right? So that's a piece of what's going on there. The other piece of it is that we often focus on the things that are in the products. This particular herb contains that particular, bioactive ingredient, which does this particular thing in your biochemistry or physiology, right? So we focus on what the product has. We often don't talk about what the product doesn't have, right? We go through looking at purity, even down to the level of the excipients, right? So a lot of companies will use things like silicon dioxide, or there's all kinds of really cheap kinds of just yucky excipients, right? So excipients are things that help the capsule, help the ingredients move through the encapsulating machines and go into the capsules and pack the right way and things like that. We use some of the most clean excipients out there, right? We'll use a rice extract, or we'll use a flour extract or something like that. They're way more expensive than the typical excipients, but we don't want to introduce anything into those products that could potentially cause a problem in all the biochemistry that we're trying to restore balance across, right? So that's another piece of it, and that's something that, like, it doesn't get front billing on the package. We don't talk about it in our marketing materials. We hardly ever talk about it on calls like this, but it's one more piece of how those products work so well in that given system, So there's a lot of thought through, because it all comes down, every single thing that we do comes down to, does that person feel better, right? It's wonderful we can talk about the science, and it's wonderful we can talk about the quality control and the analysis that we do and all that kind of stuff that goes into the product. But if that person doesn't feel better after taking the products, we are literally dead in the water, because we are the mental wellness company, right? So the science is awesome, but when you can hear the stories coming back from people about how it's helped them in their actual lives in all of these different ways, that's what makes this real for people, right? And you're not going to get that unless the products are built in a certain way. But it really is that end result of, can you feel this? And you can, across all of our 22 products.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's what practitioners, these people in this space, are wanting, right? We're all wanting our patients to have an incredible experience and to be able to be that source for them to have that. So yes, thank you so much. I mean, I just know that's been a huge thing for me, to be able to reintroduce those foods and feel such a change. So, because I feel like I was kind of that client that was in, I'm like, I'm doing all the things, I'm eating clean, I'm working out all the time, I'm not doing the fake sugars. but why was my gut such a mess? Why did I have so much brain fog? You know, and I think and the more we talk to people, the more we realize in men and women across the age span, it's just such a common complaint. Starting to get thyroid issues, all of those. Dr. John, are you ready to jump on here? And could you even kind of tie in a little bit of how, maybe you could just jump in. I'll just say, Dr. John, I know people fly from around the country to see Dr. John Kempter. He's the owner at Kempter Holistic Dentistry in North Carolina. And his number one intention is wellness. I love how he says that. Like, let's get people a rhythm so they know what to do at home. And so say hello, introduce yourself. And I'd love to kind of hear, how do you see practitioners being able to serve more people by offering Amare to them, by having that as an option for their patients? And start by telling us a little bit about yourself, and then you can jump into how you feel like others that are listening could impact even more people by bringing this in, as you're bringing this in to your offices.
Well, thank you, Janelle. Honored to be here. I appreciate the introduction. I have a couple holistic dental practices out in the Charlotte area in North Carolina, and also have a second set of businesses that are based on dental sleep, which is basically dealing with alternative ways to help people outside of CPAP to sleep better. And so I guess the best thing to first say, getting into it, is how did I hear about Amare? Andrew, Janelle's husband, has been my coach for a long while, and also a personal friend. And a couple of years ago, in the midst of all of my growth and movement towards further wellness, he, again, kind of like Dr. Armstrong said, like prior to even it being an inception, he started telling me about it. And so I was blessed enough to come out to the launch event back in 2017. And I really think that what really drew me into Amare was the story of the founders. I was really blown away just meeting HipTran and meeting Dr. Sean and Mike Brown and the other guys, Pat and Rich, and just why these guys did this. And it really resonated with me. And I was at a point in my career where I was looking for answers. You know, I had gone outside of what I'd been told at dental school and advanced training about allopathic medicine. And it just, it really drew me in, understanding why we were looking at total health. And so, I've been on a definite journey myself, and a journey in my practice for overall health. And this just really fit in well with that. And so I've been very impressed with, as that went on, I got, it's kind of like what the docs have said, I went to the event and I was like, there's no way, Andrew, I believe you. I see the value. I hear all you guys, but it's like, this isn't for me. I'm not looking to sell or market it. So there's all this hesitation on the front end. And really what transitioned it for me was, at first, was like a lot of people, your own story. And, I became a wellness partner, and I got all the products and started using it with my wife and also my children. And we've seen just incredible success with our kids. I've got 4 kids from 11 down to 3, and my 11-year-old at even age 8, before kids mood even existed, we were breaking up the mood and mixing it with things to make it taste better. And she was still taking it. And it was like, after just a few months, it was like when she got anxious, she's like, Dad, can you give me some mood? It's like, at that point, there's no denying the value. And so it just, I kept staying away from bringing it within my practice, because it was like, well, this is over the line from what I do as a dentist. And I just have to say, from the dental perspective, I've been blown away with the mouth is the entry to the gut. So what we deal with, if you have disease here, you have disease in your body. And it's like Dr. Nona said, I've just been honestly blown away by seeing, just in the beginning now with getting it in my practice, what is happening with my patients. So, it's a little bit overwhelming in the sense to understand, like, wow, this is it. You know, like, I've been looking at all these other things and all these ways to get people healthy, and in the end, if we do symbiotic relationship throughout that gut-brain axis, it's harmony. So I'm and I guess going to it, you know, now my goal is to get this message out to other dental practitioners, people in my field, and on the other plug with the secondary end, with what I deal with dental sleep. The sleep product's amazing. It's been a complete adjunct for us, and yeah, I really believe that where we're headed now, we're in rarefied air, and it's not about. I guess what really makes me feel good is I don't have to worry about at all sales. I don't even think about that, because for me, it's just about now it resonates with me, because my whole goal is I just want people to be healthy. And so in a way, it's like, how could you not tell people? So I'm honored to be here, and I'm, you know, as moving forward, I'm excited to be more involved.
Yeah, thank you. You've really been a brave pioneer from the beginning in what you do for holistic dentistry, and you guys are doing amazing things. And I think Sean probably has something to this will be good as we bring this all together before we just open it up for some questions. So thank you, Dr. Kempter. So good. I love hearing that perspective. And so Sean, since Dr. Kempter was talking about this being the entryway to the digestive system, maybe you want to say something to that. And then to kind of the final question, bringing it together, we're talking about with the state of our stressed out world and how things are now, with the CDC saying there's going to be no greater focus than helping people with their mental well-being during this time that we're in, this cultural climate that we're in. So can you just speak to that? Because again, these practitioners wanting to make an impact, wanting something that's simple, and also acknowledging, and I'll just say a little something, acknowledging like that hesitation on the front end. I think most of you that are on here, if you have a practice in anything even holistic, or maybe even medical, people have their hesitations, right? Oh gosh, I've been to a chiropractor. Oh gosh, I've been to a nutritionist. And so yeah, like we're making massive waves, and it will be global as we just are starting to expand internationally. So we get that, and that's why our commitment is we want to do this well. We are doing this well. With integrity as one of our core values, like it's not just a pretty thing that's on the big wall when you go out to the home office, but with integrity, service, humility, love, and innovation, like everything flows through that at Amare. And I think that's what people like you, Dr. John, have seen when you go out to the home office, and Dr. Andrea, where you see like, oh, this is legit. This is something that you're really wanting to lead with, not just to make you look shiny and sparkly. So anyway, Sean, will you just speak to that last question, and then we'll open for Q&A. This is such good content. Thank you everyone for sticking with and just participating.
Yeah, sure. So just to echo a little bit about what Dr. Kempter just said about, your gastrointestinal tract starts here in the mouth, right? So, even though a lot of what we talk about around the gut microbiome is really, really new science, all the stuff that we're learning about the oral microbiome is even newer science, thinking about, the microbiome that's here and how that can set off an inflammatory reaction in the body, and et cetera, et cetera. So Dr. Kemp used a word that I think was very nice. Harmony, right? You're trying to get all of these systems talking to each other at the same time. And when you can do that, people feel better. And it ends up being really, really easy. Like one of the challenges, I'm not a physician, but I have a lot of physician friends who their biggest challenge is that they just want that patient or client to feel better. They want them to do better. And that's their ultimate goal. If you can use something that's natural and, coordinated and holistic to get them to where they need to get, that's what you want. And if there's science behind it, even better. And if there's further research behind that, even better. So, I think what we're doing is particularly relevant right now, so with all the quarantines and the economic ramifications of that, and what's happening with schools and what's happening with the economy and what's happening with people's jobs, and are you going back to work, and like all of that chaos and uncertainty that is around everybody right now, like right now would be the perfect time to start a mental wellness company. But we did this 3 or 4 years ago, right? So all the bugs have been worked out, all the research has been done. It's like, it's a perfect storm for, like, this is something that everybody is looking for. Patients, clients, health professionals, allied healthcare practitioners, whatever the case may be. And you can't turn on a piece of news media without seeing that stress levels are at an all-time high, that loneliness is at an epidemic, that the mental wellness ramifications of this pandemic are going to be even more severe than the actual infection rates. So like it's all there right in front of us, and this is being served up to us on a silver platter. So I think a lot of people are looking for this, and it's incumbent on us to make them aware that it actually exists.
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, I think that is powerful to think that we have these solutions. And like you said, a few years ago, even when we first went out to Amare, and the first time I heard the term mental wellness, it's like mental wellness. I'm thinking of all the videos we had to watch in like high school psych. And I'm like, do I want to be in this world? But no, like I love how we break down mental wellness. And just to add one thing we've not mentioned, for all of you practitioners to know, is that we're not only bringing, like we've really spoken strongly with the products, we also have programs. And so our programs are all designed to bring in those pieces that you guys are also working so hard to do. Lifestyle, food, doctors. I mean, it's so world class, these videos, and what people can access when they log into their Amare account. So someone can get started with product and they can go in, they can order their products, and it's all linked, and any commissions, just as if you have any other, I won't mention names, but any other brands on your shelf, it's the same there. But they have access to all of these tools. And so whether for their diet, for their mindfulness, for their movement and exercise, so that's just an added, like not even any extra cost for that. That's part of what we are about. And that comes for all of our people that are utilizing the product. So I want to open it up to some question and answer. But before I do, I just want to thank everybody, and I'll stop the recording, and then we can have about 15 minutes here with Dr. Sean. So really, we hope that you guys feel like you've heard some solutions, what we put together as far as being a solution that nobody else is doing. And again, we've been now, I mean, as a company, starting January of 2018, pre-launch for 3 months before that, but we've been in to be able to have all of the legitimacies that you guys heard from the clinical side to say, we're here and we're looking to link arms with holistically minded individuals, whether you are a nurse or a chiropractor, or you are an MD doc, wherever you are on the spectrum. We can't do this alone. So we've chosen this direct sales route, yes, because we want to make sure that we're doing this well, doing this ethically. But we really want to make an impact, and we know that through people. So by people being able to be empowered and learning on their own, and then directing the medically minded to our scientific resources, it kind of takes any sort of risk out of the hands of our wellness partners. So it's just been a win-win, and we're here to help you guys. So with those resources, if you haven't already shared your email with either Anna-Marie or myself in the chat, we'll send you just a summary after this chat that you guys can have, and then to answer any of the questions. But we're so glad that you're here. We're really looking for visionaries, people that see what we're doing and go, holy cow, yeah, I see it. Yeah, I see there's a need. And we'd love to link arms with you. And it might even be you just putting it to the test for yourself first. It's like Dr. Andrew was sharing, and Dr. Kempter and Nona, to say, okay, not Nona, right? It took Nona a while. She gave everyone else products. But to use it for yourself, put it to the test, and see what you experience. Like, be a total skeptic. We welcome that, because this is how we're going to make world change. So let me stop the recording here. All right.